For Deals Guide, text money15 to 99,000. That's money15 to 99,000.
Welcome back to Get Down to Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. And I'm thrilled to be joined by our next guest, a serial entrepreneur with expertise in healthcare and technology, Carrillo, the CEO and co-founder of JOANY, which formerly was called Impact Health. Christine, welcome to the program. I know that you have a philosophy that our sick system can be transformed into a health system by aligning healthcare organizations with patients and by arming healthcare organizations with innovative thinking, tools, and collaboration. Christine, I am excited to hear about the impact that you are having. Welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate being on.
Absolutely. So why don't we start with your story? I know that you have spent over 15 years focused in a very interesting place involved in both healthcare and technology. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing and how it's led to what you are doing today.
Yeah, most definitely. So my co-founder and I actually met about 12 years ago at a startup. I was coming in to help them get acquired, and she was still a software engineer at that point. That startup was one of the first pioneers helping individuals in what was called Med Part D figure out how to get a recommendation online. After we finished, that company got acquired, we moved on, and Kaiser was one of our clients there and asked us if we would come join them to help them do something similar, which they called, if you would help us flip Medicare so they could get a return on investment of about $7.6 billion. We did that for 3 years, and we're very quick actual experts in the industry in Medicare, which was a weird sort of place to have expertise in at that time. And from there, we started our first company, which was called Humanized Health. And what we were like the MacGyvers of health insurance. And so we would work on behalf of usually board of directors for a health insurance company and help them implement pretty large-scale projects and initiatives that were, about $100 million plus in project scope. They were things like where they had switched hands a couple of times with maybe 2 or 3 of the big 5 consulting firms. And usually it was something very, like the company could get shut down. The health plan could get shut down and might be in danger of losing one of their business areas like Medicaid or Medicare. So we would come in and kind of get them back on their feet. We did that for 5 years, had a great business, had 25 employees, had, pretty much about 85 health plans that we worked for, most little ones and mid-sized ones and some small ones. Now, one day we were at a dinner party, and one of our friends who was a film director asked us, since we were in health insurance, if we could help him figure out why one of his, while Anthem really was the plan he had, wasn't covering his doctor visits or any of his medications. And we were surprised. He was on the previous field. He had a great plan on paper, but as we kept looking into it, we realized that it was never going to actually cover what he needed, and he was paying about $3,000 a month out of pocket to cover the doctor visits and medications his family needed. We started to build this spreadsheet just to figure out what was going on, and pulled data and started to realize that data was really difficult to get, and needed a PhD and insurance to figure this stuff out. Put a lot of math behind it, and then started testing it out with friends. So,
Christine, it's interesting these days in 2017. The topic about the economy is that artificial intelligence is hurting people. It's if people are losing jobs as a result of it. What you and your co-founder have discovered is that by using data and by using machine learning and artificial intelligence, you're actually able to help people. Give us some examples of how that data that you've learned throughout your career, but also that you are working with. You're working with, I know, pretty much a wide spectrum of health plans. You mentioned Kaiser, you mentioned Humana, Aetna, Anthem, and so on and so on and so on. What are the stories that are impacting this, and And I just asked our recent guest, what's your vision for JOANY over these next 5 years?
Yeah, so, I mean, the interesting thing is artificial intelligence and machine learning can sound really terrifying. But, I mean, the reality of what we're using it for is to actually offset cognitive tasks. So the fact needs this PhD practically, right, in math, statistics, and health insurance to really understand the data and do the advanced math behind the scenes makes it pretty much impossible for an average consumer to be able to do that. Nor do you have to spend 2 to 3 weeks research figuring that out. So our data takes about 52, or our algorithm takes about 52 different data points. We take everything from the medications you take to the finances of a health plan. And I'll give you an example of that. We had a client, and one of the ways we started getting better at the algorithms is figuring out real-life cases. But we had a client that used a drug called Humira. Humira is incredibly expensive. It can be about $1,200 an injection, and so you can easily spend about $12,000 a year on Humira. Very few health plans cover Humira. If you find a health plan that covers Humira, and you pay, let's say, $200 an injection, that is quite the deal. But if that health plan has a track record of adding a drug to their what's called a formulary, which is basically the list of drugs that they cover, and then drops them mid-year, which happens very often, you don't want that health plan because you're going to get stuck and maybe have paid more in a premium or whatever it is to try to get them covered. So we also do analysis in the background on trends on how a health plan behaves almost within their own product lines. And we do that for the last 2-year period. Another thing we do is we can get very predictive on what kind of insurance you need on the medications you take, as well as number of doctors that we can start at. If you take a certain kind of, if you take any kind of heart medication, we can assume that you're probably seeing a cardiologist. And so we will account for that and make sure we're looking for a plan that's very rich with that. If you're taking ADHD medications, we can assume a lot with that too. Usually with ADHD in that category, you probably have some anxiety. You might be seeing a doctor for those reasons. You definitely are seeing a psychologist or psychiatrist that dispenses that ADHD medication, as well as your own symptoms. And there's other things you might have that may develop over time. So we want to look at a plan that would actually cover all of those.
Sure. So, Christine, we only have about 2 minutes remaining, and I want to make sure that our listeners understand. I know on your website, which we'll, of course, share with our listeners tonight, JOANY is really being called the healthcare concierge. Why is that term appropriate? And I know you've talked a lot about the plans and helping sort of identify and navigate on that side. But what about the decisions like finding a doctor and some of those very practical decisions that I know are so stressful for so many people?
Yeah, so once you buy insurance, you pretty much drop off of anything else, right? So a broker traditionally or a health plan won't really do anything else with you other than send you a bill. So that's where we step in. We believe that consumers need to actually have someone in their back pocket that is taking care of all of the other things that come with after you buy insurance one time a year. So our concierge service is driven by machine learning and experts within humans. It does everything, takes care of everything for free that you would need, finding a doctor in the network, outside of the network, whatever it is specific you're looking for. If you need help paying a bill and figuring out bills should be paid, a lot of times we get these and aren't sure what they need. We'll fight the bill for you as well. Anything to do with finding prescription, like lower prescription drug costs, pharmacies, pretty much anything to do with managing your health insurance where we see the future here with this.
It's incredible, and you truly are bridging those worlds of healthcare and technology and making an impact on so many thousands and thousands of people. And I know that our listeners will be hearing a lot about the work of JOANY. But in the meantime, I would love to make sure that our listeners can find out more about the work that you're doing. And I know they can search by zip code. How can they find you online?
www.joany.com.
Okay, JOANY.com. Check it out. It's the easiest way to get health insurance. You can find the best plan. Very, very quick process. Christine, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be sure to have you back on in the coming weeks, but we've got more tips, advice, and information coming for you after this quick break.
The biggest